Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Voices at the SCS Center. We're back with another interview in the series that we're doing on non-personal data. NPD as a topic has become all the more relevant now that the committee led by Chris Gopalakrishnan has released its first report on what a governance framework in India could look like. The deadline for submission of comments to this committee has been extended to the 13th of September. So I would urge everyone who's listening to this and who works in tech policy to get their comments in and participate in the process of the creation of this framework. For today's interview, we have with us Mr. Saket Gupta, who is an engineer from the National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, and who currently works as a technical architect with Grey Orange. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for taking time out to join us here today.
Thanks, Mohit, for having me.
So Grey Orange is a company that works in warehouse automation, and their tagline is that they turn warehouses into warehouses. So I'd like to understand first exactly what it is that the company does and the role that you play in it.
So our company works in a warehouse automation area, basically flexible automation. So we convert our normal warehouses into a smart warehouse where each and every process, wherever it can be, is automated. And also without putting not much investing in the fixed cost, basically. Okay, so everything can be moved to a different process format. So yeah, it's flexible automation. And I basically work on the product line where we design robots which can carry, you could say, pallets or the materials that are there in the warehouse, and it brings it to the operator. So basically reducing the work that operator needs to do to pick our orders.
Right. Right. So given that you deal primarily with automation and artificial intelligence, I assume data would play a crucial role in your operations. So I think an interesting place to start a discussion with data would be to understand what are the various kinds of data that it is that you work with on a day-to-day basis.
So typically, I deal with image data and laser data. Something like a self-driving car would collect. Okay.
Right.
That data may include from something like sensors, like inertial measurement units as well. So that is some kind of unstructured data of a specific environment of my client side.
Right. So from what you're describing, I would gather that most of this is non-personal data in that it doesn't relate particularly to any individual or doesn't carry identifiers such as their names, financial status, health, etc., and deals primarily to data that is generated by machines and computer systems.
Correct. The data is generated by robots and does not contain any specific personal info or anything. Just the raw data of a site.
Right. So a question I had is that given now we're moving in the direction of a creation of two separate regimes, one regime for personal data and one regime for non-personal data. If there is a situation where moving forward, say the company was to begin collecting data, which also relates to personal information, how would you deal with segregation of such data or labeling personal data, non-personal data differently? How would it affect your data handling practices on the day-to-day?
Okay. So most of our, as I mentioned before, most of our data does not contains personal data. Okay. So we do not feel a need of labeling as such this data in our internal in data collection methods. Besides, I do not see much of a change from our end, but in actuality, the data that we process, these kind of data are, you could say, the proprietary info of our clients. So they are the people who are directly basically communicating to the end customers, the users, individual users. So I guess for us, not much of the things change in our data collection policy.
Right. That makes sense. So moving on to now data sharing, which I believe is something that could be, that is one of the key components of this framework and of the proposal. So it works on two aspects here. One, that the committee requires certain companies to make raw and metadata available to other players in the community, including the government, as well as NGOs, Indian startups, etc. So on this, I would like to get your views on two aspects. Firstly, having dealt with AI, having dealt with automation systems, have you felt that there's a dearth of training data or other good quality data that there is for you to work with?
So definitely there is less structured or a clean data that you could directly use in the open space. Besides, many a times licensing is also an issue that you can't use it for commercial purposes. So previously in my startup, these kind of issues are something that we regularly face. And especially if you're working or dependent on big companies like Google, Facebooks, or Amazons of the world. So yes, this causes a lot of hindrance in terms of good data. And besides, it depends on the space that we are working in. Like in my current scenario, I don't feel any need of data that can be I can procure from outside or from outside firms. I need to generate data on my own.
Right, that's a very interesting point because I think one of the underlying assumptions that the committee makes here is that if companies such as yours were to have access to data that is being produced, say, by an Amazon in the warehousing category, then you would be able to use that to build on it and innovate better. Do you feel that is necessarily true, or given that data is collected in a specific context and given that you generate data which is particular to perhaps the algorithm you're training, that the efficacy of such raw data would not be as much as it is made out to be?
I guess if the data generated or if the data released by Amazons of the world, then I guess it will definitely help us, okay, to train things faster and basically to converge faster. Okay, that is definitely there. But currently, it's not a blocker in our current business as such, because many a times the data is bounded by the privacy laws of that specific vendor. Okay, if our client is some specific, you could say, e-com company or some logistic company, they do not want the, you could say, the process. You can guess the processes. You can guess the you can guess more things from the data, especially from the image data, than what you want to basically put out there in the world. So those things are a specific concern, especially if you are in a specialized environment, which is something you could say the IP of a specific company.
Right. So given that there is work in this specialized environment, do you feel that infrastructural restraints in terms of bandwidth availability, connectivity, etc., have in any sense provided a hindrance to you accessing certain kinds of data, or even to you carrying out training, etc., of your algorithms and artificial intelligence?
I guess so. That is definitely a concern, especially if you're a startup or growing stage startup. The amount of data that is out there, it's practically impossible to crunch it on your servers. You might need to go with cloud service providers like AWS or GCP or Azure maybe. So those things are definitely there. Besides, at scale, the computing resources could be costly, especially in India or Indian scenario. And unless and until you're financially backed by investors.
Right, right. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm just going to flip this question over and I'm going to ask you that if, as a business, you are asked specifically to share certain kinds of data. Now, the committee, as I said, requires certain raw and metadata which pertains to the community to be shared on a mandatory basis. Now, of course, you've said that your company doesn't actually generate data which would fall under community data as such. But assuming that there is this framework of mandatory sharing that goes and it is applicable to you, how would that affect your incentives to further build on this research, and how would you sort of approach that?
So in my opinion, most of the times what happens in a startup environment, this practice of sharing data, or where you can data which is freely available, it's a great step. Okay. But the problem is, as you are growing stage startup, what happens is this data is sometimes your IP. Okay.
Yes.
And if it goes in public domain, you lose your edge. Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's more like a double-edged sword. Sometimes you can use it, but in a growing stage, someone else can maybe grow faster than you, because you need to share your learnings. Sometimes
Absolutely.
your learnings are your data. Okay, so that is, in my opinion, a concern. Okay, and if that data is, you could say, I need to share that data. In my opinion, I may need to put a pipeline where the extra infrastructure pipeline where I need to make that data available to the public using REST APIs. Okay, I may not be doing it in a you could say consumable way for now for external party. Okay, so that is I think is extra work for startups, especially when you are handling or you are overloaded with your requirements and you need to serve others as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think definitely that we can't ignore the incentive that companies have in the form of intellectual property protection for their data sets and mandate that all data should be there. Maybe a more voluntary basis would be something that companies would be interested in and would also be able to benefit others in the ecosystem.
Yes, I feel so. That may be the case. Besides, right incentive, besides, it could be the scale of the company at you are at, besides how critical your data is. Because many a times, see, the whole wizardry lies in how you interpret that data.
Right.
Okay. That raw data may be meaningless to someone, but someone can conjure something up which may kill you, or which may lead to basically your, they can take a share of your profits.
Absolutely. That brings me basically to my next question. Do you feel this assumption that the committee has made that raw data or metadata is to a certain degree less valuable to companies and so it can be shared openly and freely, a fair assumption to have been made? Or do you feel that there is significant value that can be derived from raw data and also that there are privacy concerns that may arise from raw data given that it can be linked to other data sets and there can possibly be de-anonymization that occurs as a result of putting out such volumes of raw data into the open market?
So I feel first thing is in the de-anonymizing process, there is always a possibility that you can basically enrich it with some other data source. And I don't think so it's objectively possible to think of all the possible cases and all the possible scenarios where by which you ensure that data remains de-anonymized. A possible case would be where you take some de-anonymized data and you merge it with your own data set and you get some personal info out of it. So I guess that is always a concern in my opinion. Besides, if you put so much data out there, I think it will help startups and it will you could say incentivize people where many of the times what happens is when you're brainstorming an idea, the idea fails on the just because you don't have enough data to train it,
Right.
or maybe you don't have enough data to proceed further. Okay, if you have something, then maybe you could strike something good. So yeah, there it will help small startups or maybe budding entrepreneurs.
Right. So I think a few things that we've been able to get from this is firstly that if there has to be data sharing, it is beneficial to startups which are coming in. And secondly, that if it has to happen, it should possibly be on a more voluntary basis where there is some remuneration that is flowing in the other direction. Now, from what I understand, usually whenever companies part with their data, it's done contractually and the remuneration is decided between the two parties. But here, when you're going to be sharing it openly, and one of the beneficiaries is probably the government talks about valuing data in fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory terms. So, Mike, for depending on the level of value add that is there, and as the value add keeps increasing, obviously the remuneration will increase. Now, my question to you is, given that we're dealing primarily with raw data, and as you said, raw data, one entity might not have any use for it, whereas for another entity, it could be a treasure trove. So in this, is it even possible for us to objectively come at a value and say that, okay, for this data set, this is what an objective value will be, whereas for other data sets, this is what will be? And how would that mechanism work?
I believe so. Putting an objective price to it would be a concern, or would be a problem, actually, a big problem, because as I mentioned earlier, it depends on how you use that data or how you can basically reimagine the whole scenario. Okay. Besides, in my opinion, what happens is once that idea works, okay, based on some other person's data, okay, and that idea hits big, it becomes difficult to put a value. Would you charge, let's say, if some company becomes a $1 billion company, would you question the whole business model or would you ask a percentage of their own business? Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
there it becomes difficult, and there comes the litigation and the whole lot of things. It opens a whole different another Pandora's box. Okay. So maybe more contractual basis or maybe something like a give and take kind of thing could work in this specific scenario, or something where some kind of enforcement, maybe non-commercial use or maybe some kind of a restrictive sensitive use could be there. Besides, there are few points where government is also restricting few of the datas, which could open a lot of new doors and lot of new opportunities, or could give us lot of insights in our, you could say, the basic problems of the country, which could solve the basic things, the most basic thing, maybe let's say a pollution data. Okay,
Right.
I guess that comes under the restricted data category. You have some
Right.
vehicle registration. Maybe if you could combine both of these things, you could land upon something quite good by which you could solve the pollution problem, especially in the
Right.
North India region. Okay, so these kind of things. There is restriction somewhere where government wants a restriction, but otherwise for private entities they want to open the whole data. So
Absolutely.
I think it's an unfair thing. It's not a symmetric relationship.
In fact, I think it should be in the reverse, where if data is being used for policy making, it should in fact be public data which the government already has that should be used first before asking private entities to share what they have and sort of place that demand on them. Because one area that I feel that needs to be given more focus is the quality of data and the viability and veracity of data that our public systems and our public authorities are generating. Because that is also going to be something which forms the basis of our policy formulation going forward.
I guess so, because there is a lot of data that government collects that is quite valuable that maybe the private companies are not collecting, or they are collecting by their own means. Especially
Right.
if big companies are there, they can do that. They have the resources. But startups, they are basically trying to meet the ends on their own. It's difficult to venture into something new, which is not there.
Exactly,
So
and I think that's interesting because at the end of the day, the company will collect data that is relevant to it, and it will also store and process that data in a manner that is relevant to it. So even though
yes.
Uber is collecting data about how people are traveling, the data is being collected in a manner that is relevant to Uber for it to get more bookings. It may not necessarily have the same relevance for the government or for policy making, whereas the government that public authorities collect would probably be more relatable to policy objectives.
Uh, yes, could be. Besides, it depends on how you collect the data and what kind of raw format it is. Basically,
Right.
all of it will be unstructured data. So how you basically label it, if it is labeled or not, because if data is not labeled in current scenarios and current algorithms,
Right.
unsupervised learning is not that advanced compared to a supervised form. Okay,
Mhm.
so that is also basically a concern, or on the scale of data that is generated, that is also a concern to manually label it.
So one of our previous interviewees raised brought out an interesting concept of federated learning. I just wanted to know if that's something you're up to date with and you could possibly talk about.
Uh, I haven't personally used federated learning
Hmm.
in my projects, but yes, I guess that can help a lot where we don't want to basically share the data. Okay,
Exactly.
the whole processing is done on the edge itself. Okay, so that is there, but many a times the problem is I'll give you a very small, it's a simple scenario. Let's take our public electricity industries or grids. They have all the data, but if you are crunching your data on the edge, basically you're processing on a resource constrained device. Typically
Right.
in our India, the cost is the main concern. So people already have limited number of resources, especially at the edge devices, because the scale is large, the cost will be large. If the incremental cost that you put in at that scale will be a huge amount. So many a times what happens is the computation power deployed at the edge is a limited one. Okay, so in those cases, federated learning, you could say at scale, is in itself issue, especially when the you could say the edge devices are owned by customers. Besides, you need to ensure that security is maintained, because otherwise
Right.
it can open a backdoor into normal people's life without them knowing. So that is a concern, and everyone has to comply with that security, or whatever the measures or the protocol or the standardized way of accessing the data on these edge devices. And
Right.
besides, you could see the power consumption is also an issue. That is the main issue. You might see a lot of innovation happening in last 5 years or so in, you could say, the machine learning industry, where people are designing their own ASICs just to conserve power, because the normal purpose GPUs are too power hungry for their purpose. So
Right.
it'll increase the bill of the end customers as well. So we need to take care of all those things as well, the peak power consumption of these devices.
Right. I think those are some very interesting points, particularly with regards to federated learning and with regards to non-personal data and data sharing in general. Thank you so much, Saket, for these views, and they will definitely help us in the recommendations that we draw up and submit to the committee. For everyone listening, I'd like to thank you for having joined in, and I request you to follow the SCS Center on Instagram, Twitter for continuous updates on non-personal data and other issues pertaining to technological property, technology, intellectual property, and a host of other issues that we cover. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mohit. Bye-bye, guys.